Hey guys, welcome back to AF Farms and welcome back to No Man's Land for our Let's Play series. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to style up this little block that we've created. So we've got the Spinnery, Tailor shop and dairy. So I am going to basically just showcase how I would basically take this little layout that I've got here and turn it into something like this or something like that or something like this, so you get the idea. So it's basically just going through the build process. So I'm just going to sort of talk through it as I go and basically show you guys what I've been doing. So first of all, what we're going to do is paint the ground. So what I like to do is basically experiment with generally two types. So I've got the cobblestone. So there's no real rhyme or reason here. I basically just get it down. Obviously I don't want to go too crazy like that into areas that I've already done. So when I say that, the footpath, just sort of on the outside there. So let's just widen that up a little bit. One thing I do use a lot of is the GPS to get nice straight runs. So that's what I'm doing here. So I kind of missed a little bit there. So I'm just going to do this whole area in cobblestones to start with. Actually, one thing I am going to do is turn back on the menu information that I turn off. Okay, let's get our map back. Okay, so I can see where the interaction points are. So there's a delivery point, production management point, purchase point. Same there. That's where the pallets spawn as well, and that's where the pallets spawn there. So obviously want to keep that in mind as we're designing and building the access points, because we don't want to inadvertently block off an access point so we can't actually get into where we need to. So yeah, so one thing I use a lot of, like I was just saying, is the GPS. So I've got it currently set to 359 degrees. So obviously 90 degrees to each other would be 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180, 270, and so forth. Just quickly fix up this little bit of asphalt. So you basically line them up to, so in this case I'm going for 180 degrees. Now if you can't see what I'm talking about, it's the GPS on the little mini map bottom left. Gives you GPS coordinates. Okay, so there we go. I've got a bit of a hard stand area sorted. Okay, so that's good. Now what I need to think about is how we're going to drive the vehicles in. So truck's going to come in probably through this way, drop off there, and drop off there. So we really don't need access all the way through to the dairy. So what I'm going to do is, what I might do is, yeah, I'm going to delete part of this hedge. If it'll let me. So let's go probably there. And try and eyeball it on the opposite side. Probably not quite. And then what I'm going to do is I will probably... Oh, we do have the little shed thing out the back here, so maybe I'll whack a fence in. Let's have a look. So you want to kind of keep the aesthetic of the buildings kind of making sense as well. So what I'll do is I'll probably just position a fence post. So what I'll do here is actually... So I've got basically an even line. So what I'll do is I'll get that on. Go 270 degrees. So we get a nice straight line. So that's 270 degrees. So draw that across. And this is basically where my fence is going to run to. So back into decoration, back into fences. Find our steel, black steel fence that we use quite a bit. So that's that one there. And basically what I'll do is I'll draw a fence off of this edge. Turn snapping on. So you can see there that's at 90 degrees to the wall. So it's nice and straight. So it doesn't look off kilter at all. Now I've got this drain pipe here to consider, so what I'll probably do is I'll just go to the side of that. Okay, drop a post in. Make sure snapping is on, so snapping's off there, so it's freely moving. Press L3 to get it to snap. And plug that in there. Okay, so now what I've probably gone a little bit too short there. So what I'm going to do is I'll delete one section of that fence. Get back onto the fence I was using. Okay, so that's just on the grass, probably about there. Just double check that that's square, which it looks pretty good. And then we'll project this over. And join that up. Okay, so now we've got a bit of a defined area. Now obviously I've left a little bit of room, because obviously we've got roller doors here, but they don't do anything. They're just there because. And I mean, I could take up more of the room here, but I just don't think it's necessary at this stage to do that. Okay, so that's that. So let's get... Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that so far. Let's get... And I'll just mention too, I haven't got any predetermined plans on how I'm going to do this. I'll basically just go with the flow and basically just do trial and error. So I've got a nice little entrance there. You basically just layer in. So let's get this to 0 degrees. There we go. Paint that in. So that's going to be a little bit of an entrance. And same over here. So I've got it set to 180 degrees, roughly. Okay, that's all good. So obviously, walk in from the pathway, interact with the building. And then we've got our drop-off points here. And then we've got our sheds out the back, which don't do anything. So basically, we've got a little bit of we've got a defined area now, which is kind of what we want. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to put in a laneway. So I'm going to delete this hedge here. So I'll cruise over there. Delete that as well. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go this texture here, which is the asphalt. So if I go that one, so that's the biggest square. So we go just one in from the biggest. So I'm going to come off the fence a little bit to make room for some trees. So let's go about there. Get this lined up perfectly at 0 degrees or 360. So that's 0 degrees, and that's going to give us a perfectly straight. Obviously I just moved my finger there. That's why that kicked out sideways a little bit. Because obviously when I do this normally I'm not talking over it. So you can concentrate. So let's go 180 degrees. Perfect. So I'll go nice and slow this time. That should... So one thing you got to consider too is your camera angle will impact how that looks. Okay, so let's fix this up as well. So I'll zoom in a little bit. Get this set to 0. So now here we're just straightening up the road. Cool. Alright, now what I'll do is I'll extend the hedge. So back to decoration, fences, find our small hedge, which is down here. So we'll connect to the edge of that one. We'll bring that down. So it looks a little bit not straight to me. So I've toggled off the snapping there. And I'll just eyeball it to the edge of that grass. So that's that. I'll do the same here. So I've got snapping back on, so that's looking pretty good. Okay, so now we've got our road or laneway, and then we've got a separate laneway which is potentially going to service the dairy. And realistically, we could probably put something else in here, so we might put a decorative building. We'll see. Alright, time for some trees. So now this is when I would probably look to put a tree in. So the trees that I've been using are the American elms. So I've used a mixture of sizes, but I'm tending to go for the smaller at the moment because they're a little bit less intrusive to the overall feel of the map. So I'll whack one probably just in the corner. So what I try to do is line it up with the center of this pathway and the center of this pathway. So once again, not an exact science, but pop that in, and then you can rotate the tree by pressing triangle or just holding L1, and you can rotate it to whatever angle you want. So just to make them look a little bit more not the same. Obviously they're all exactly the same, but the orientation, the position changes up how they look. Okay, cool, so we've got that sorted. Okay, now what I could probably consider doing here is putting a small tree on this corner. So I'll find the pagoda dogwood, so small pagoda dogwood, and what I might do is just pop that there, sort of on the corner. So this is just to define the area a little bit more. What I will do is I'm just going to go probably there, so it doesn't interfere with that drop-off point too much. Cool, so we've placed the buildings, we've put down some cobblestone, we've fenced off the area, we've put in another laneway, so you can already start to see. I mean, even if I just left it at this, it looks a little bit more polished than it was, but what we're going to do is we're going to fix this up a little bit further. So what I'm going to do is come in and paint a bit more grass texture. So just around here, so I might switch to the circle. Actually, I'm going to switch back to square because it's a little bit more reliable. Get that on 180 degrees. Just sort of no real rhyme or reason here, just sort of just fixing up that. It's a little bit hard to see under the tree. So because obviously we've put a tree there, kind of makes sense that that's not growing out of stone. So let's just, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe I'll just push that edge a little bit. So I'm happy with that. So I'll leave that for that, like that at the moment. Let's do the same thing here. I've just switched back to square. Okay, so what I'm going to do there is I'm going to whack in some grass moss. So what I'll do is I just basically press X when I'm doing this. It's not quite what I wanted to do there, but I'll come back through with some asphalt and just sort of tidy that up a touch. And what I'll do there is I'll just finish that off with some just a bit of a smattering of that gravel dust. Actually, no, what I'll do is I'll use grass, the grass texture. There we go. So it just gives it a bit of a rougher look as to what we had before. So I'll leave that as is for now. And obviously, because it's sharing the, yeah, just to differentiate the areas a little bit. So obviously that is, I don't want the same texture, not always anyway. Sometimes I'll mix it up. Okay, let's go some trees across the back here. Okay, so what are we going to do? Sometimes what I'll do is I'll potentially put a big tree. So I might get another American elm. So I'll go the small one. And if I'm going to go 3 big trees, which actually I might do that here. Just rotate that one around. Kind of, so obviously space them out relatively evenly. So let's go just there. So they all different positions. Keeps this sort of theme going. Now if I wanted to, I could probably put some small pagoda dogwoods, which I may just put, let's go 2. So I'll go 1 either side. So the reason why I like to mix up the tree types is because when you come to fall or autumn, these trees all look a bit different. So if you have all the same tree all the time, they all look the same. But if you mix up, so this is a large pagoda dogwood, the elms, sometimes I'll throw in a shagbark hickory. They just make the visual a little bit more interesting. So cool. So really, we've got a bit of a plot of land there we could play around with. So I'm pretty happy with how this has just turned out so far. Because obviously there's going to be some forklift action happening in and around this area to take the cotton into the Tailor shop, which is just here. Oh, sorry, just here. And then obviously I'm going to have to get something in here to auto load or move these pallets later on. So I could actually park a vehicle in here, so that's also good to have a little bit of space if required. But the main thing is just the access from the road. Now sometimes I loop around, as you can see here with the hedge, but in this case I've just got a single hedge tree to sort of mark the corner. In reality, I probably could have moved this over a touch and it wouldn't have mattered too much, but I like to have a pretty short distance from this pathway to there when I've got a building on this footpath area. So, alright, so looking pretty good there. I'll leave that there for the moment. How are we going for time? So the question is, what do we do with this section? So obviously I want this guy to be basically here because that's where the road sort of ends. We've also got this dirt path, which I really kind of need to figure out. So this is where I would sort of think, okay, I've kind of determined that my footpath and road are going to be here. However, it might make more sense to have it on the main road, which in this case obviously it's not leveled out and it looks a bit weird, so I'd have to go through and fix that up, because I could project the road going this way, but then I've still got the dirt road on the side. Which what do you do there? Do you drive off of the dirt road? Do you turn that into asphalt? Because obviously the dirt roads extend up to this part of the farm. While we're here, we'll have a quick look, because this goes on to the corner of the map, just to sort of show you where we are. And you can see the lookout right up in the distance there. And then that drives all the way up to the side. So it's kind of like, where do we go from here? So this is where the town planning really kicks in. So what I probably might do, I won't do it now, but this asphalt road, I'll probably wrap that around to here and then drive that up to probably around this area, link it up with this part of the asphalt road, and then from here it would go from a sealed road to an unsealed road, so basically a asphalt road to a dirt road. Or I could basically bypass that altogether. So we'll have to see. But anyway, this little section's all done for the moment. So I may make some edits to it later on, but basically that's our Spinnery and Tailor shop sorted right next to our supermarket. So that's it there. So like I said before, any questions, leave me a comment below if you're unsure or got any particular questions about the styling choices or build practices, whatever. Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.